Hello, I'm Renee Boston. I am one of the birth injury and medical malpractice attorneys practicing law here at Boston Law Group, LLC. I want to bring you a special guest today, is friend and colleague, Ms. Janelle Ryan-Colbert. She's with the Colbert Law Firm located in Bowie, Maryland. The Colbert Law Firm services all of Maryland as well as the District of Columbia. She is a special guest with us today. She's going to bring us some information on how to co-parent during the COVID-19 crisis or the pandemic. So without further ado, I want to introduce you and welcome Ms. Janelle Ryan-Colbert, Esquire. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to be here.
Thank you very much. So we're going to jump right into it. I know if you want to tell the viewers real quick, what are your practice areas so they kind of get a little familiar with what areas you cover?
Sure. So you already mentioned we practice throughout the state of Maryland as well as in Washington, D.C. Our firm has 4 primary practice areas. One of them would be family law, and we've been doing it for over 15 years now with a specialty representing fathers and fathers' rights litigation, although we represent both parties. We handle divorce, custody, separation agreements, and as well as domestic violence, both in DC and in Maryland. We also do employment and labor, representing employees under collective bargaining agreements. We do personal injury from a general perspective, and we do probate and estate litigation. So right now it's a really big deal. Getting wills, doing power of attorneys, getting, your estate plans in order, because we're really in uncertain times, and a lot of times, folks put off estate planning, but this is a sobering time for everybody. So this is an area that we've been concentrating on.
Okay. Thank you for that. So we're going to jump right into it. So I want to talk to you real quick, because I've seen some issues come up. Although our firm doesn't practice family law or having issues with custody or things like that, but I've seen other attorneys mention that there have been problems or issues because of co-parenting, whether, before the pandemic, there may have been a situation where one parent had the child Monday through Friday and the other parent picked the child up from school on Friday and returned the child to school on Monday mornings. But now, since there's technically no physical structure of the child is going to, how has that really played out, or have you seen that in your practice with co-parenting?
So I have. In fact, I had a situation that I had to counsel a client on this morning. It was an order that was in place, and it required the parties to exchange the children at school. Okay, somebody drops off in the morning, and then at the conclusion of the school day, the other parent gets the child. Well, the parent that had the child already in their possession refused to release the child because they did not deem homeschooling as going to school for the purposes of the exchange. It's my position, and I advise my client, that if you are home, if you are doing curriculum with your children that is instructed by the school that they attend, that is school. And because of that, the order should be followed just as if the children are in school. So it's really important to follow the court order. It still applies even though we are in the midst of a pandemic. And those technicalities that sometimes people are trying to play on really go against the spirit of what the court order is intended for.
Yeah, I got you. Okay, it makes sense just to keep the routine kind of established to help, I guess, with the kids and everything. Absolutely. So let's turn your attention real quick to divorce in this situation, because I've also heard of, there's a running joke that you got spouses now who are used to being gone from each other at least eight hours a minimum a day at work, but now everybody's at home 24/7. This person is there in your house, and you got to deal with them and look in his or her face all day long. So right. Have you had any issues or heard any issues with potential divorce, or now you're looking at them sideways thinking, I don't know if I want to continue with this during this time?
Start to rethink decisions, right?
Right.
Absolutely. So no, it's real. And here's the thing that's so ironic. When we first transitioned into remote working, I just naturally assumed that sort of the divorce practice and a lot of the family law, I kind of contemplated some domestic violence issues, and I contemplated maybe some access issues, but not so much the divorce issues. It has been an issue. And one of the things that I realized, especially this past week to about a week and a half, I've been getting a lot of calls about divorce cases. And what I think is happening is two things. Number one, people who have already had issues in their marriage and things were a little unstable for some time. This has really crystallized it, right? Because as you said, you're in the house, you're looking at this person 24 hours a day in each other's space. And then if you got that component of kids and the kids don't want to listen, then it can really be a very tense situation. So if you already had friction before, but you had the benefit of going to work or going to the grocery store or going shopping or doing whatever it is you do, and you now cannot do that, the tensions are high. So I have gotten an increase in phone calls for divorce actions, and I have also gotten calls very recently about domestic violence issues.
So let me ask you this: if somebody's contemplating a divorce during this time frame, because I know, you can't really just walk into a courthouse nowadays, or is it today? Because it's, most of the courthouses are shut down or limited in interactions with the public. What can a person do, or can they do anything now to actually start the process or to get the ball rolling, or what would you suggest at this time?
So yes, they can, and we are still doing new filings for divorce. So even though the courthouse is closed for the ordinary, for the public for ordinary business, there's no prohibition against counsel from drafting complaints for divorce, getting them filed for divorce. And with the change in law in the state of Maryland, which now has a grounds for divorce under what's called mutual consent, that is a way that couples do not have to be separate and apart for the 1 year, which was what the previous statute called for in order to get divorced. So essentially now, under the mutual consent, if the two parties have an agreement on issues relating property, relating to alimony, relating to child custody and child support, that agreement can be memorialized in a document, and parties can move forward with the divorce because the issues are now uncontested. So right now I am getting calls, and some of the clients I had met with before the pandemic, and now we're really just taking the opportunity to solidify the separation agreements. I had a case today with the attorney and I. We're working to trying to get these people divorced. They're fairly amicable with each other. They understand that the marriage is over, right? So we're just tweaking terms. And once this is done, we're able to go ahead and move forward with an uncontested divorce. And in Montgomery County, they're actually doing uncontested divorce under a remote docket. So
wow.
You do not have to physically be in court. And I anticipate that that's going to with other courts if they're not already doing so.
Okay, that makes sense, because at this time we don't know how much longer the shelter in place orders are going to last. So maybe they'll be over May 31st, or maybe it'll be July 1st. We don't know. So that's a good idea to kind of keep the ball rolling and keep some of these cases moving, so the court's not overwhelmingly backlogged when the courts reopen full speed. Right. So you mentioned something a moment ago about domestic violence cases, and I know that I've done domestic violence cases and still do them every now and then when we get a phone call for that. But if a person is having or experiencing a situation like that where they are being harassed or they are being intimidated by either a loved one or a neighbor or something like that, what can a person do right now, or can they do anything to, how can the victim get resources right now, or can the victim get help right now with a situation of domestic violence?
So they can. And the good news is that although, again, the courts are closed to the general public for general proceedings, right, they're still hearing emergency cases. So that is an exception to the administrative order that was issued by the court. So that includes extreme risk protective orders, that includes peace orders, new filings for protective orders. The circuit court and the district court are still hearing those cases. So if you have a situation where you believe that you are the victim of domestic violence, or if you have been abused by somebody that you have that relationship that triggers the statute, you are still able to file a petition for relief from domestic violence.
Right. Okay. Well, you know what? That's actually the big major topics that I wanted to cover, because I know people have been asking about that, and people have kind of had concerns about whether or not there are things that they can do now while you're sitting at home, or for the custody issues and divorce issues, but also are there resources to help the victim out during this pandemic. So that's kind of the major areas I wanted to focus on. So I appreciate you for that. So let me ask you this: is there anything that you want to let our viewers know about the whole domestic and family law realm while we're under this shelter in place or the COVID-19 situation?
Well, if I was to leave any words, right, I would just encourage all of the viewers, right, if you are in a situation where you have an existing custody order in place, abide by the order. Now, mind you, there are circumstances where there are safety issues. Sometimes you have first responders. Sometimes you have people who have been exposed to COVID-19, right? So in circumstances like that, you have to proceed with caution, right? And so there is an exception that would come into play. But generally speaking, the court order should continue to be followed absent some extreme circumstances that would justify a deviation. So follow the court order as it relates to custody. With regard to divorce, what I would say, if you have two spouses that are still living under the same roof, and they're still amicable, and they're on the same page with getting a divorce and wanting to move forward, that is fine. This is actually a good opportunity to have a candid discussion with your spouse about the house, about retirement, about alimony, about a parenting plan that addresses the kids. Because if you're able to do that and you call my office, we work to create, again, that mutual consent to try to make sure that even though you're getting a divorce, right, you can still have a very civil relationship, a civil discourse, and you don't have to end on terrible terms. So we really just encourage families to think outside the box, right? It doesn't always have to be a bunch of acrimony. There are ways to separate families or change the dynamics of family, and do it in a way that preserves the integrity of the family. Finally, with regard to domestic violence situations, this is a takeaway. If you are abused, you still have the option of 911. You
Right.
still have the option to utilize the protective order statute. And if you feel that you are in danger, feel free to call the police. Feel free to file a protective order. And you can always call us at Colbert Law Firm.
Okay. Well, I thank you once again. I thank you very, very much for your time. I thank you very, very much for the information that you provided to the viewers. So at the end of this video, you're going to have the Colbert Law Firm's website, phone number, email address, the whole nine. So that way you'll be able to get in contact with attorney Janelle Ryan-Colbert and her law firm to find out more information about these particular issues and any other issues in her practice areas. So once again, I want to thank Attorney Janelle Ryan-Colbert very, very much. Thank you, ma'am. And I appreciate your time and attention. And again, I'm Renee Boston. I am one of the birth injury and medical malpractice attorneys practicing law here at Boston Law Group, LLC. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you next time. Take care.
Thank you, Renee.